Hey fellow Vault Dwellers, it's Angry Turtle, and today we are talking about what's the best armor. Not the power armor, the regular armor. And straight ahead, I apologize if this video will end up being a little bit longer than I would like it to be, because unlike power armor, regular armor is more complicated. Yes, you could have think other way around, but no, there is more nuance into regular armor and more additional factors to consider when you are choosing the armor, not just a set effect and total armor rating. So there is more to it, and I will try to cover it as concise as I can and hopefully nail it for you so you will know what's the best for you from the March update onwards. Yes, we are on public test server, most likely a final version of the patch, so all the stats should be final for the release. As last two tiny patches were focused on bug fixes. So the patch is about ready for a prime time. So let's dive in. So here's the list of different armors in game. There is actually a little bit more. I type in values of 19 setups. There is more. Mostly I skipped a light and medium versions of heavy armors that are here, as those are quite redundant to use. The difference between heavy, medium, and light is effectiveness with perks like ricochet or evade chance. So like light is better for evade, heavy is better for ricochet and bullet shield. That's the difference. Generally, evade is not used as much, and no one normally is choosing lower armor rating for a slightly lower cooldown or slightly lower cost when dodgy is involved. So that's out of the way. Number one total is Brotherhood, Recon, Butcherest, and total means all those resistances together combined, so elemental and energy and ballistic, excluding radiation. The reason for excluding radiation, if I add it, obviously, out of a sudden, Chinese stealth armor would be number one, and that's not how it works. Like, radiation is an environment, and combat are those five. So combat total is what you see here, 931 Brotherhood Recon. Then the second one, civil armor 834 with hardened mod. The last word here, buttress, that's what modification is on it. On this one, hardened. Hardened on civil gives a little bit better total stat than buttress. Buttress is worse. And yes, you are right about Secret Service. It doesn't make sense to put hardened. That was my mistake. Somehow I was thinking Secret Service was the same as Civil Engineer. My bad, yeah. Doesn't make sense. Like, hardened on Secret Service helps a little bit with energy. Doesn't really do much for Elemental. And Ballistic suffers. So that was my bad. So Secret Service is number 3 total. Unfortunately, it's still not a top pick. And for more reasons than just a combat total. The big one that you can see already for the Secret Service, like Elemental, is really bad. Like, that's the worst of all armor sets. If total Elemental is involved, this one doesn't protect you from Elemental damage. Civil has a downside of being low ballistic, but yes, we'll cover over practical use case and how it looks like on the full build. As those stats, this is a naked stats of the full armor sets. Not including any perks like Ironclad or additional perks like Junk Shield that can boost your stats. This is just armor with its modification, the primary modification increasing the rating. So Civil is on top, and for me, if you want my answer already, Civil Engineer is number one. The one thing I would prefer, if it could be a heavy armor and not medium. Like, Civil Engineer is medium, there is no heavy or light version, so that's the worst from both worlds. I don't particularly like it when armor is medium, because it doesn't perform best for either ricochet or evade. It's like in between, which not my favorite, but there are some other strong suits from Civil Engineer outside of stats. So it's number one, for sure. Combat boss, it means combat armor with boss modification, surprisingly very high. And if you look at the resistances, it's way more balanced than a Secret Service. Its total rating is almost the same, but you do have elemental protection, a really well one, and decent ballistic, really good energy. Now, if we take a look down the line, Thorn is really nice. And yes, Chinese stealth armor is here. Not even the last one. The Trapper and Marine, regular Trapper and Marine, have worse total rating than Chinese stealth. Surprise. That was a surprise for me. I was thinking that's gonna be the lowest. That's the highest radiation, but no, it is not. Now, if we consider only ballistic, Brotherhood Recon Absolute #1, then Metal, then Secret Service. Yes, Secret Service now belongs to high ballistic and not so high in other categories. We consider only energy. I don't think anyone is gonna make a special set for every possible resistance. That doesn't make sense, but just a quick look what's best for what. Surprisingly, leather armor is not #1 for energy, it is civil engineer. And energy is a nasty source of damage. Therefore, I do like the fact that civil engineer is so high on energy. Then Secret Service, doing really good here. Combat, Covert Scout. Covert Scout is quite balanced, and that's stealth armor. That's for stealth, not really for tanking, and total ranking is quite good too. About Poison, a quick look. Poison #1 is Thorn. Thorn is #1 for Poison, which makes sense. Solar is a little bit lower. I don't know why Solar is not equally high. They both the same type from the old raid. They all with the veins and so on. I don't know why. Then Fire. Civil. #1 for Fire. Which is good too. Fire is quite common. Fire and Poison, like two common elemental damage sources. Cryo is more rare. And here's a surprise. #1 for Cryo, leather armor. Again, I don't know how leather is higher than Arctic Marine, which should be expensive, specialized armor to protect you from cryo. But it's not. And for example, going back to topic of hardened boot chest, Arctic Marine I did both, and you can see it mainly changes distribution, and total is very similar. It's not the case for Secret Service, though. So yeah, not everywhere it's interchangeable. And then radiation, that answer is obvious here. Chinese stuff, but if not that, then free armors do really good. Secret Service and Civil. They both do really good. They have two different setups for Secret Service. So back to combat total. No, not that. Combat total. They, like, all those are above 700 total. Then there's a gap. So up to a leather, metal, robot, combat boss, Secret Service, Civil, Brotherhood, Recon, they all really high. And then the gap appears and starts going down. Now, a little bit more into it, so I spent already too much time on that. Back to the game, some practical tests and additional factors. So now some practical performance of the armor set with a build and with some legendary effect to make it more realistic. So we'll go with troubleshooters, starting with Brotherhood Recon, and it's all equipped with a dense. I think dense was nerfed. It used to be 50%. I don't know when it changed, that now it's 30%. Is that this patch or previous one? I didn't notice this change in the patch notes. Maybe I missed that. But yeah, dense is only 30% now, but we have that equipped. So full troubleshoot recon armor with proper perks. So there is Ironclad, there is Barbarian, there is Junk Shield. So the standard stuff is in here, and we'll be testing all the same, like not every single armor set, but top 3 armor sets or 4. We'll do a quick test versus Guardian, looking at the stats. So for most part, we are not entering a diminishing return. We're entering a little bit of diminishing return area in case of Brotherhood Recon and regular armor, as that's over 1k. But for most armors, it's not happening. So first salvo is ballistic and energy. Rockets are ballistic. Lasers are energy. Second salvo, we are like 20% health. And third salvo will take us down. And yeah, the ricochet is equipped. That's more realistic scenario. So that was Brotherhood Recon. Now we are looking at Civil Engineer. Civil Engineer, full set, so completely different stats. I like them much more, way more balance, much more elemental. Slightly lower ballistic than it could have been, but it's not a big problem in my opinion. Around 500 is fine. And now let's see. So we'll take higher damage from rockets, less damage from lasers. Overall, we are taking less damage. So that's a second salvo. And that's salvo number 3. Normally we would be already dead. And now salvo number 4. So much better tankiness versus the Guardian. Again, Guardian is the best case scenario for me to test on. It has ballistic, high ballistic damage with explosions, with rockets, and energy damage. And yes, versus something like Deathclaws or melee attackers, Brotherhood definitely above. And I am ranking Brotherhood armor very high. Now, Secret Service, I will be using 2. I will be using Brotherhood and Civil Engineer. So both of those are my top picks. And now Secret Service. Very low elemental will not play a factor here. Guardian does not do any elemental damage. So Secret Service can show off, it's relatively good. Ballistic and energy still will not work as well as Civil Engineer, because in case of the Guardian, energy resistance matters more. And I know it is one particular scenario, so I'm not saying it's everywhere in game like that. I know there are enemies that have way more ballistic over energy. I do acknowledge this fact. I'm just unable to showcase every single possible scenario without making this video 2 hours long. And last armor set for comparison, we'll go with Covered Scout armor. Troubleshooters as well. It's 4-star, but other effects have nothing to do with the defense. And I am wearing under armor, yes, as well on top of that. So now, surprisingly, well-balanced resistances for Covered Scout as for the stealth armor. And we can tank almost as well as with other armors. Look at that. And this is the limb damage. What you see here, it's the limb damage. Open people, as that's important for you to see. Look, that's the comparison. The top armors with a full build, they all perform well, but you can see in this particular case scenario, Civil Engineer greatly outperforms all other options. Now, I said there is more to armor than just its rating, and that's very important now. So you may think about the jetpack as that's the obvious one, like the top armors have a jetpack and other armors do not. For example, all of the regular leather and marine and so on cannot have a jetpack. Secret Service can have a jetpack on the miscellaneous mode, which is big, but there is something that mostly you may not think about, but it's very important. When we go over the negatives of Secret Service armor, when you look at mods count, so what that includes, like mods count, that includes the base mods 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and miscellaneous mods. Miscellaneous mods are important, so we just reduce that by 5, so that's 10 miscellaneous mods for a chest piece, so torso piece. For arms, there is 8, and for legs, there is only 6. If we compare that with other top contesters, so Brotherhood, you can already see there is more, and that's big. They also have only 5 main, but there is more total because we have more miscellaneous mods, and that may play a role. Even if you don't need them today, maybe you will need them tomorrow, who knows. For example, I stopped using Secret Service because I cannot put Strengthen mod. That's very important mod, it protects your limbs, and some of the strategies with in-combat healing involves healing that do not heal limbs. So then I will be fully crippled, and that's a big negative. Stimpaks do heal limbs, so if you are mainly constantly healing with Stimpaks, yeah, Adamantium Skeleton and you good. Other case scenario, not necessarily, so Strengthened may be important. There is more mods missing as well. Like maybe you will need muffled. Maybe you need that if that's even working today. That's different topic. I will need to retest stealth, what is and what is not working. So I'm not sure if muffled currently do anything, but for a stealth build, that's important. None of the top armors have shadowed mod for the first modification slot, so that's unfortunate. There is no shadowed. Shadowed is like a must if you think about good stealth. That's why I included Covert Scout, as this one can be double shadowed. So now we are going about stealth effects. Stealth effects, I mean set effects and special effects. Covert Scout armor has stealth in shadows bonus per piece, so total 25%, and it is stackable with shadowed, and those work. So you can have 50% total with Covert Scout that you cannot achieve with any other armor set. So Covert Scout, very important if you are after stealth. No jetpack there, but all other necessary modifications, really good for stealth. Back to Civil Engineer. Civil Engineer has all the essential modifications for both arms and legs, so it's good. The only one that's missing several is the not Civil Engineer, is the Secret Service one. So Secret Service, unfortunately, is missing a lot. If we open the side for legs, you can see there is no muffled, so there is never option to use it. There is no limb protection, so there is a bunch of them missing. They're just not there. You cannot buy them, as I have all of them unlocked. They just do not exist, so that's negative. So Secret Service, there is no set bonus of any kind, and there are missing mods for legs and arms. Brotherhood Recon armor, all the mods, but no set effect. No set effect, very high ballistic resistance. Other resistances a little bit lower, although elemental is still higher than Secret Service. Energy, relatively low. That's the biggest downside of Brotherhood Recon. Low energy resistance. That's hard to compensate for. And now, Civil Engineer, there is a set effect on top of its already being really good armor. So 10% chance of 150 fire damage to melee attackers. This is not particularly important, but the second part is weapons break 35% slower on a full set. That's a big one, especially if you ever plan to use polished 4-star effect on your weapons. That's a huge one. Therefore, yeah, Civil Engineer, my personal winner. Then if stealth is involved, Covert Scout armor. And if ballistic will be ever really needed, Brotherhood Recon for crazy high ballistic resistance, over 1k. I will probably own 2 sets, Civil Engineer and Brotherhood Recon. And Covert Scout is the third one, but that's for stealth, so Covert Scout will be there always in my inventory somewhere for stealth. About Torn and Solar, they have a set effect as well. The Torn one, detection chance, not sure if that's working at this moment. The bleed damage does work. Detection chance, not sure. Solar effect is relatively weak. It's 4 health per second. It's good for support builds, but not particularly strong. Both Torn and Solar are decent options for stealth, as they do offer Shadow. And difference between Polymer and Shadow, it's like non-existence. You trade values around, but it's about the same total. So that's another armor set when 2 different modifications give about the same total. And that will be all the most important information you need to know about armor choices. With that, you should be ready. As well, today Minerva will be selling Secret Service. Up to you if you want it. I'm not saying it's a bad armor. It's just not top pick for me personally. And that being said, thank you a lot for watching. And see you in the comments section.